Hi, hey out there. This is my first live on life changes with astrology. I just wanted to, I thought this was a good time to go live. So I hope those of you out here that see this, first of all, I hope you're having a good night, or good morning, or good afternoon, whatever time of the day it is, and you are part of the world. So the reason why I wanted to go live first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. If this is your first time meeting me, I am Jay, and this is my channel, Life Changes with Astrology. The reason why I call it this is because obviously I talk about astrology, but also I'm calling it this because I primarily talk about life changes that happen that are shown in a person's astrological chart. And so that's really the premise of this channel that I have that I'm starting to get really good traction on. So I think anyone who has had an opportunity to take a look at the channel and they've enjoyed the shorts, I enjoy the comments and comments about the different subject matter that I talk about. So that was the first thing I want to say. Thank you for that. And the reason why I talk about this is because I started doing this for myself. I started using this to time certain events in my own life and life changes. And so I thought it would be interesting to look at, for one, famous people and see how their chart showed how their lives would change, whether it was a hit movie, a hit album, or maybe it's somebody that's just notorious for something specific. I thought it would be a good idea to explore that and see where that may have been coming from or where that showed up in their chart. So that is the premise of the channel. So, and that's the reason why I do the channel, and I enjoy exploring those topics with you. So the reason why I am doing my live tonight, if you think about it, you probably guess why I'm doing it. One primary reason is because of the news we just got yesterday about President Joe Biden dropping out of the presidential race and deciding that he will turn the campaign over, or turn the Democratic campaign part over to his VP Kamala Harris. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Maybe Kamala. Is it Kamala or Kamala? I think it's Kamala. Anywho, he's turning it over to her and allowing her to pick up where he left off. Basically, he will end his term, and then whoever wins, whether it's the Democratic nominee or the Republican nominee, he will exit the White House. And if you've been paying attention to politics at all, then you know that there's been a big call for him to step down. The call got a little louder after his debate with Trump a couple of weeks ago. A lot of people felt like he was not as alert as he needed to be. And he did have some flubs there. And so there's just overall concern about that, as well as him getting COVID and feeling like, he just might not be able to complete this campaign as well as if he won, stay in the White House and perform to the best of his ability. So as a result of that, a lot of people saying things, including Hollywood actors, being vocal about feeling like he needed to step down. He finally decided to do so. And as of Sunday, July 21st, 2024, he decided to endorse Kamala Harris for this role as to run as a Democratic nominee for the President of the United States. This is, of course, noteworthy and monumental because Kamala is a woman, obviously, and we've never had a woman president, U.S. president. So if she were to win, this would be a really big deal for the country. Now, the first thing I do want to say, let me get rid of this right quick. But the first thing I do want to say is this live has nothing to do with the parties themselves, whether you're Republican or Democrat. That's not what this live is specifically about. This live is really just about exploring whether Kamala might actually become the first woman president of the United States, independent of whether she is a Democrat or a Republican. That's number one. So that's what this is really that's what this is really about. It's not about the parties themselves. It's about this specific event, because remember I said my channel is about life changes, and this would definitely be a life change for her specifically, because she would be the first to do something like this. And if you've ever noticed or studied history or even watched people in general, if you know anyone that has been the first to do anything, a lot of times you'll find that being the first is often not the easiest. If you are the second, third, or fourth, or fifth, or 40th president, you have someone to compare what you do to, whether you've done it well or not so well, or you've done it better. But in this case, if she were a woman president, yes, she would have other presidents to, judge her successes against. But she, as a woman president, she would have some specific challenges unique to her that other presidents would likely not experience. So this is a big deal, and because some people may not necessarily like the idea of a woman president of the United States. So this is just something to really explore this and to determine, is this really something that she could end up doing? Are we really going to see this in our lifetime? So that's the grand question tonight. Could Kamala actually become the first woman United States president? And so how I'm going to do this, I'm going to break down her chart. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about her, specifically some things I noticed in her chart and what I feel like they mean or say about her personality, as well as how she probably handles herself regularly, just in general. And then I will go into some things I saw in her chart, her solar return chart specifically. And then, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to go into. I think that's the gist of what I'm going to go into. It's between her birth chart and her solar return chart. Of course, there are progress charts and other charts to look at, but I think I will kind of wrap it up with that, because I think you will get the idea from that. Okay, so just to start, her birth chart, I don't know how to share the chart. I think there's different ways to do it, but I didn't have time to do that tonight. So maybe in the future, if I go live, I may share a chart so that you guys can see it. But currently I'm looking at Kamala Harris birth chart. And for those of you that don't know, she was born October 20th, 1964. And it's reported that her birth time was 9:28 p.m. And she was born in Oakland, California, by the way. So being born October 20th, 1964, it says that her sun is in Libra. She's 27 degrees Libra. And I can go into explaining the description of a Libra. And if you ask most people already know what that is. So I don't feel like I really need to go into a lot of explanation as to the personality traits of a Libra. I think you guys may already have a pretty good idea, whether you're a Libra or you know a Libra or something like that. There's things that are noted, like decorum, charm, knowing how to work with people, talk to people, things like that. So I feel like she probably has that part of her personality, but there's some other things going on that I think are worth talking about. When I looked at her, and by the way, if you have not had a chance to watch any of my videos, I highly recommend them, not just because I did them, but because They're a great way to understand the chart because you do have to have the basics to really understand what you're looking at. So I looked at her chart, and there's 10 planets in everybody's chart. Sun is just one of them. I looked at her Venus, and it is conjunct Uranus, sextiling Neptune, and conjunct Pluto. So it's a little hub between Venus, Uranus, and Pluto. What this tells me is that Kamala is really comfortable with taking risks in order to grow. So for her, she may feel like she was ready for this yesterday. And that may be true. But what I've learned about astrology is that you can feel like you're ready for something, but until you're actually ready, your chart says you're ready, you usually doesn't happen. And as we know, she did try to run before, and that's how she ended up becoming the VP to Joe Biden in the White House. So she may have felt like I was ready yesterday, and I'm ready for this risk, and I'm ready to, charge for and do what I have to do. But of course, again, we always have to wait till our turn, our time. All right. And so she's also always ready to push for progress. She likes progressing. She likes moving forward and doing things forward. She's not going to be happy with remaining stagnant. And so I think that will be the case for her campaign. I would expect her to come out gangbusters, ready to talk to everybody, ready to see everybody, ready to travel everywhere. I don't think she'll have any issues about that. She'll be, ready to go. She's already probably ready to go, has her itinerary set, and wants to add other dates and places just so she could do all of the campaigning that she wants to do. So Venus is here. So even though she is always ready to go and wants to do this, she will use the decorum and the charm that is customary of, say, a Libra. But because Venus rules Libra, that this applies. She will try to do it in a congenial way. She won't try to push over, although she will be pushing for the change or whatever progress she wants to see going. She'll just try to do it as kind and as nice as she can, but at the same time, not willing to budge. I don't see her budging from whatever it is she's trying to do. I think she appreciates order and stuff like that. So I think she'll want to do things in the right way. Another thing I noticed is she has Mars square Jupiter, square Neptune, sextiling the ascendant. So again, if you don't know what ascendant is, basically it's the sign, I want to say it was rising to the east when all of us were born. And by the way, the rising sign is often not your sun sign. For some people it is, but a lot of times for people it's not. So for her, even though her sun is in Libra, her rising sign is in Gemini. Allows her to be flexible. It will have a way with words in some way or form, whether it's written or speaking. She would be good at that type of thing. But with Mars here, she has Mars in Leo. So that sextiles her ascendant. But I do feel like she might be a little bit hot-headed. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And I think that she has probably learned over the obviously she's a mature woman, so she's probably learned over the years how to control that. But because she's always ready to go and she really believes in what she wants to do, she can sometimes overshoot things. So for instance, in planning her campaign, she might try to overshoot, saying, I want to go to 20 places in 10 days or something like that. And they may like, you can't do it. And she might say, yes, I can. And then later figure out, okay, maybe at this particular time, I wasn't able to do that as much as I thought I would. But in those situations, her intentions would be good. She would want to do the right thing to campaign and get the word out and not disappoint anyone. But sometimes she might end up, just going above and beyond, and then finding out, okay, maybe I need to draw that back in just a little bit. She should also make sure that there's someone to check her facts to make sure that she doesn't say anything in the spur of the moment that's not true. Only because if she's in a heated discussion, she has a lot of fire to her. Obviously, with Mars and Leo. So she might have to make sure, like, okay, let me pull this back in, stick to the facts. Make sure, even if someone questions me or questions my abilities, I feel like I can do it. And I don't want anybody to tell me I can't do it. But let me pull this back in a little bit and make sure, I'm still remaining, charming and positive. So someone that people would believe in. She's probably best served always being calculated and keeping the end goal in mind. This shouldn't be hard given that she's quite ambitious. And that's the thing about Mars, it does rule ambition. And so she would be very ambitious, willing to work hard to get what she wants and to get her point across. So anyone that's concerned about her ability to debate Trump in the next debate, I don't think you have to worry about that specifically, just based on the things that I see in her chart. The next thing I see in her chart is, speaking of debate and talking, Mercury, which rules thinking and communication, conjunct Sun, which is no big deal. Most people have that. But it opposes her moon, trine Saturn, and trine midheaven, which midheaven rules status and career. So the trine is positive. So that tells me her ability to and use of words will always serve her well in her career and whatever climb she's making status wise. So that means she's a very strong and very structured speaker. I definitely expect her to continue to do well in that arena. She would put forth the hard work to communicate well, and especially in a debate. And her thinking, communication always helps her career and her status. The only sticking point, kind of going back to what I said about the hot-headed, emotional reactions to stuff. So I mentioned that the Mercury, which rules communication, opposes her moon, and Kamala's moon is in Aries. And if you were familiar with the sign Aries, you know that that can be a very hot-headed sign. It's also a fire sign like Leo, so it can be very hot-headed, very impatient, spur of the moment, now, do this now, run over you if you're in the way. So that is a little bit part of her personality, or I like to say that's the default reaction. Our moon sign is usually our default reaction to different things, including resistance from other people. If we get outside resistance, how do we handle it? And the moon sign usually has something to say about how we handle that. Whether we go in a corner and we cry, or we just, buck up and make people, notice us and do what we said. With her having moon in Aries here, she may be more the person that would charge and say, no, we're going to do this my way. And this is the way I want it. And so with that said, that can have some challenges with communication, but because she has things in her chart that support her ability to use her communication for positive, and when it comes to her career and her status, I feel like she can pull that in. She may have her moments, but she can kind of pull it back in to where it's not a situation where she is, her everything is just out of whack, out of nowhere, and just going haywire. I think she would be able to handle that. And of course, there's people, that the campaign managers and stuff that help with that. Okay, so last of this part, describing her personality, Sun opposing Moon, conjunct Mercury, trine Saturn, trine Ascendant, and trine Midheaven. So that Libra Sun opposes the Moon, which also can create some scenarios where if she doesn't get exactly what she wants the way that she wanted, a person can get a really fiery and very aggressive response from her. But with her having it trying her, the sun trining her Saturn, I feel like she has the structure because trine is positive, and it's a positive relationship between the sun and Saturn. Even though Saturn can be a strict planet, cause delays, cause you to work harder, cause you to have to go back and correct things and extra effort. You wish you wouldn't. You have to do this and that and the third. But after you finish it, you accomplish what it is you set out to do. So with that built into her personality, she's okay with working hard. So she's not going to have a problem with saying, hey, okay, I got to do this. Okay, fine. Let's do this. Let's put this aside. We're going to put this time aside. We're going to get this done. We're going to get this accomplished no matter what it takes. And so all of those things help her career. To me, when I looked in her chart for the sun opposing the moon, to me, it kind of looks like conflict between being independent and going with the group. If she wins, this may materialize in her presidency as a political views, her political views and her strategies for things that she wants to implement may may not always merge with, maybe Congress and Senate and stuff like that. And so that's kind of to be expected. I think all presidents kind of have to work through that as they try to implement certain things. But for her, I think that she may have some challenges periodically with that. I think her approaches, I think if she wins, some of her approaches may be a bit unorthodox or feel a little bit unorthodox for some people. And some people may even want to panic, but I don't think it'll be a reason to panic if she does when it ends up in that situation. But it could periodically become an ongoing struggle for her as far as getting people to understand, yes, I have some ideas that push really hard for progress, but it's with good intentions, and I think that we can do it. So it'd be that type of situation. But at the same time, I don't see her wanting to veer too far away from the status quo or, what has already been done. She's not going to go too far off the ledge, if that makes sense. Okay, so I hope that gives a pretty good idea of what her personality is like and what she might be like in campaigning and even a little bit in the presidency. So as far as what I saw in terms of her chart, her solar return chart for 2024. And just so you know, a solar return chart goes from birthday to birthday. So her 2024 chart, solar return chart, doesn't start until October 20th, 2024. So right now she's in the 2023 solar return chart. But by the time the election takes place, November 5th, I want to say, she will be in her 2024 solar return chart. So that's the one that I'm looking at. And what I can tell you, the first thing I see right away is a big yod. And so if you don't know what a yod is, so the best way to explain it is when planets form in different areas of the chart, sometimes they make a shape in the center of the chart. And so that shape is created because of where the planets are located, like what sign they're in and what degrees they are in. And the most common shape is usually a triangle. But there's different types of triangles in terms of major configurations. And so one of those triangles is the yod, Y-O-D, if you want to Google it. The yod actually, it's long point up at top, apex long, and then a short peak. So the short part of the triangle is a sextile between two planets, and sextile being ease, opportunity, I would say. Not even just ease, just an opportunity, positive opportunity for the person in question. And then those two sextiling planets point towards that pointing planet, that top planet up at the apex, and which is the top of the triangle. And they form a minor aspect that is always recognized as much. Well, it's recognized, but a lot of people don't talk about it a whole lot. But I pay attention to it when I see it in the form of a yod. So sometimes they say it had that minor aspect has something to do with making an adjustment, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. But specifically with a yod, yods are pretty special in my opinion, and I've been studying them a lot lately. But for her to have the yod in her solar return chart, here are the characteristics of a yod. So yods tend to represent, whether they're in a birth chart or a solar return chart or progress chart, they tend to represent steep highs and steep lows. So things could go really, really good, like outstandingly good, extraordinarily good, or they can go really, really bad. That's number one. And number two, they tend to be something that has been going on for a while. So when you see a yod in a chart, and depending on where you're using your chart, if you use astro.com, the yod will have two, here, the lines pointing here will be green, and the ones at the bottom will be blue. Okay, so that might be one way to recognize it. But the yod always represents something that's been going on for a long time. And by a long time, it typically is years. So it could be 1 year, 2 year, 4 years. I've seen it be as long as 10 or 11 years. Like whatever is going on, it comes to a head when that yod hits. And then 3, it tend to be cumulative because it's taken so long. These little things have happened little by little, day by day, month by month, year by year. And then it's like, pow! All of a sudden, this huge event takes place. And a lot of times, a yod is related to an event, especially if you see it in a progress chart or a solar return chart. So that is what I saw immediately when I looked at her solar return chart for 2024. Kamala has a yod, and the yod, the planet that's in the apex, is pointing towards the 11th house. If you don't know what the 11th house is, please feel free to check out my video on the 11th house. I think that you'll get a lot from it. I often represent it to have something to do with gains. That's true, especially gains from career. But it also represents friends, groups, communities, fans, all of those things. So she has her sun, the solar return sun, which is the same degree as her natal sun in Libra, in the 11th house. That's the apex. That's where it's pointing to. And the two planets that are forming sextiles to each other are Neptune and Uranus. Neptune is in the 4th house. Uranus is in the 6th house. Okay, so that's what she has. And to me, I once heard that you can never really tell what a yod is representing. I think that's not true. You can tell. And in this situation, the obvious answer is it has to do with groups. Here she is in the political spectrum, working on becoming the next president of the United States. And she's a woman, and it's a big deal. So this is obviously a big deal, and is pointing to something specific related to that. And so when I look at her chart and I see the sun and the Neptune and Uranus being pointed out in her yod, it made me look at her birth chart to see what those things represent. So her sun in her birth chart, or her sun is in the 5th house. Fifth house rules creativity. It rules creativity like in the arts form, but in acting and things like that. But it can also, what people don't always talk about, it can actually also represent politics. So she already had in her birth chart, this is referring to politics. So that brings me back to her solar return chart. So yes, she's in the 11th house, gains, community, groups of people with her tendency towards politics. When I look at Neptune, her Neptune rules her 10th house and it actually lands in her 6th house. So that's letting me know her career. It's referencing her career in the place that she works. And whether being the 4th house in the solar return chart, 4th house usually represents home and family, but home is not just a physical home or your family home. Home is where we live in terms of the country as well. So to me, that can also reference her current situation. And then of course, Uranus, which in her birth chart is in the 4th house as well, and it rules the 9th. 9th could be travel, history, education, international affairs. So to me, anything that goes on in the United States is an international affair because we're part of a larger world community. I feel like, even though we have different countries and different things set up, whether it's culture, laws, all of those things, we are still a part of a world community. So with those things in mind, having to do with work and having to do with home and politics. And I just said that yads they represent the cumulative. They've been going on for a long time and they're steep lows or steep highs. So what does this say about Kamala's year ahead and her chances of becoming the first woman president? Well, I can tell you yads don't just come out of nowhere. And because they're so unique, when you see them, you really do need to pay attention to them. You really should pay attention to them. And so the fact that she has this, I feel like if she had not, I feel like if she weren't going to be the next president of the United States, I feel like I would not see a yod in her chart. She's been working on this for a while. As we mentioned earlier, she tried to become president before, and that's how she ended up becoming the VP to Joe Biden. So this is already referencing something that she's been in. She's been in politics for a long time, and she's already been a VP. So this is something that is cumulative. She's been working her way up to this day, this moment, this time period. And this is an opportunity for a steep low or a steep high. What I believe is this is going to be a steep high for her. I actually do think there's a really good chance that she will become the first woman U.S. president. That is my opinion based on looking at her chart. Like I said, independent of being a Democrat or Republican or independent or whatever it is that you are, I'm just looking at her chart. And based on what I'm seeing a good possibility that she will end up being elected as president in November 2024. That's pretty much my ideas based on what I saw. Of course, you always see other things as well. And I could go over them, but again, because you can't see them, I don't know that I would really want to go into all of that. Maybe in the future I can show a chart and that may make more sense. But I just wanted to, given the news, I wanted to share that with you, that I do feel like there's a really good chance that she could be elected president. And it's based on the fact that, yeah, she has a solar return yod. And to me, that suggests some major event coming place. If she were going to lose, I don't think that would be a major event because that's typically not how yads work. They don't tell you what you lost. They tell you what you gained. Or they tell you what's changed. And if you've lost something, it's it's usually not lost like this. It's not like, oh, you competed for something and you lost. It usually, you already have something and you lose it and you feel it to the depths. But this is a little different, and I think it points to something extraordinary. So for that reason, that is my take. I think that she will win. We will see in November. It will be certainly an interesting race, especially when it's time for the next debate. So we can look forward to seeing that and see how both candidates handle it and see if that sways things. But that is my take on it. Feel free to again take a look at other videos on my channel where I talk about the houses, the planets, so that you'll have a better understanding. Hopefully I can go live again in the future. I do have some other videos planned. So once I have that in place, I will start posting those, hopefully the second season of my podcast with other people that I'm going to spotlight. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave comments or send me the questions. I'd be happy to answer. Or maybe if you have ideas of what I can cover or something that you'd like to see or hear, I'm all ears, open to it. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate your time. Take care.